Hello and welcome to Inside Sports. I'm your host, Todd Blackstock. We have a special edition of Inside Sports today. Due to inclement weather, we're doing via Zoom with NCAA Hall of Famer Dana Howard. Dana is also in the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. He won multiple awards in college and a state championship at East St. Louis. So stay with us for this and much more coming up next on Inside Sports.
We begin with Dana Howard. East St. Louis High School has a storied history in athletics. A list of superb athletes who played for the Flyers. It's long and impressive. Homer Bush, Brian Cox, Don Harper, Jackie Joyner Kersey, Darius Miles, Colin Winslow, and of course, Dana Howard. At an early age, Dana knew what he wanted. He also knew that in order to be the best, he'd have to play football at a higher level than most. It wasn't easy because he was cut in junior high school by the coach. But given a second chance, he took advantage of it. A successful high school career, got scholarship offers from a number of universities, including Michigan, Oklahoma, Illinois. He stayed home, went to Illinois. To say he excelled with the Illini is an understatement. In those days, Illinois was called Linebacker University. He played alongside the likes of Simeon Rice and Kevin Hardy. Dana Howard liked to hit and tackle. He had at least 100 tackles in every season. This man was a tackling machine. Finished his Illini career with 595 tackles. He was a consensus All-American in 1993 and 1994. As a senior, he was the first Illinois player to win the prestigious Dick Butkus Award and was also won the Jack Lambert Award given to the top college linebacker. As far as the pros, the only rap against him was his size. He was 6 foot tall, not the prototypical NFL linebacker. Dallas took him in the 5th round. He eventually played 16 games with the St. Louis Rams and some with Chicago Bears. And he played some with the Bears, but an injured hand shortened that season and his NFL career. But the Illini coach, Lovie Smith, recently said, everybody remembers Dana Howard. So we are also tonight inducting this tackling machine, Dana Howard, into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. Dana, come on up.
And joining us now is former All-Star defensive linebacker Dana Howard. Dana, how you doing today? It's Black History Month, and we couldn't think of a better person to have than you for this edition of Inside Sports.
Well, first of all, I'm doing well. A little snowy outside. Other than that, I can't complain.
Yeah, it's funny. We're doing this interview via Zoom because of the National Weather Service and, you know, the feet and inches of snow surrounding St. Louis and Illinois right now is pretty incredible. So thank you so much for carving out time to do this. We want to jump right in. You're a parade All-American at East St. Louis, played for Bob Shannon, and you guys won a state title. That must have been pretty special. But your high school career didn't exactly start out how you really wanted it to, did it?
No, well, obviously it was one of those things. Everybody has a story, and my story is I came in as a sophomore, didn't start the first game, but I made sure every time I was going to get in the game that I came in and played my hardest and did everything I needed to do. So I came in, when I got in the game at the second half, I ended up getting 11 tackles. And from that day on, after the first game, after the second half, I made the coach have to play me. So that was my whole thing. He's going to have to play me because I'm going to make sure I show him that I'm worth it.
Now, Bob Shannon, one of the legendary coaches in high school history, not only in the St. Louis and Illinois area, but I mean, nationwide. What a great coach Bob Shannon was. Could you maybe give us a story or, what your thoughts are? Because he was a magnificent guy. I remember he was at East St. Louis for a long time. I met him when he was coaching over at CBC, and he was quite a guy. Yeah,
Coach Shannon was one of the best guys in the world. I mean, it didn't care. He didn't care how great you were, how cool he was with your mom and dad, if you had him as a teacher or not. He was going to play the best person or the best character person, more importantly. So we had everybody over there. We were all talented, but some of us were talented with flaws. Some of us weren't as talented, but had great character. So he wanted character guys, and so he forced you to be. If you were a guy that was in the game, well, if you wanted to play football, you had to get out the game. So he made kids better, and I mean, without having to discipline all of them. I mean, you wanted to be a part of the football team because East St. Louis was where it was in football. It still is. I mean, you know, where if you want to play top-notch football, that's where you want to be. So he's the one that made guys like me and other guys who, you know, maybe in the past had a little sketchy character, want to get better.
So what is it about East St. Louis? Because the tradition there has been going on for decades. I mean, it didn't end when Bob Shannon left. It kind of continued on. And there's just something about, you know, right across the river in East St. Louis, it just must be the quality of athlete and coaches. What's your take on how that program has remained at such a high level for such a long time?
Well, I just think, you know, kind of going off the what the guys say now, it's just all gas, no brakes. I mean, everything we do at 110%. And, you know, it's one of those things kind of like Pittsburgh Steelers, or, you know, we feel like we're supposed to win. So when we go out and play anybody, we feel like we're supposed to be in that moment. We feel like we're supposed to be the superior team. So I think that's the mentality of being able to come from East St. Louis. I mean, you know, one of the poorest cities in America, but yet people like myself seem to succeed in the world. And the reason why is because, you know, we think that we're supposed to be there. We think that we're supposed to be those type of kids in that moment.
Driving to East St. Louis, I've been there to broadcast a few games over the years, and it can become a little intimidating on the way in, especially if you're not quite sure where you're going. But if and when you get to the stadium, you know, you've got plenty of security there, and when you get in, you realize that it's almost like a mid-level college stadium. I mean, right now, the stadium and all the activities area around it and the facility is top-notch and second to none in the country that I've ever seen at the high school level.
Well, you know, that's part of the mystique. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, going back in the day to Oakland, California, playing with the Raiders or something. You go in and you know, just the Raider mystique of everybody looks scary and everybody, you know, so everybody's looking around like, man, am I going to be all right? So that's part of the East St. Louis mystique, that we want people, we want the privileged kids to come on over and see how hard we got it, so we can take our frustration out on them and everyone else that we play, and let them know that this is our everyday life. So what we can't do, we're going to take it out on you. We're going to put this punishment on you, and you take that back and explain to everybody else, I don't want to play them again.
There's even a separate floor, like it's an area where scouts from around the country can come and sit, and there's a little concession area in there. And so it's almost facilitated because the school and the administrators and the funders, they knew and they know how great a program it is. And you've got top-notch kids coming in and year out. So they made it pretty cool and easy for the scouts to come in from the different colleges around the nation and have a comfortable setting as well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the stadium is second to none. Actually, if I'm correct, which I think I am, I like to think I'm pretty right, but I think we're like the biggest high school stadium, maybe even college stadium in the area, because we have Lindenwood. Lindenwood is about the same size as our stadium, maybe smaller. Then you have McKendree. Our stadium is bigger than that one. Only other stadium that's our size is the Dome. I mean, and that's way bigger than ours. So I think we hold probably about 10,000, you know, standing room only, maybe around there, something like that.
Awesome. So being a parade All-American and winning the state championship, you had some looks and offers from around the country, and you chose the University of Illinois. You stayed home in state, and it turned out to be a great decision by you. What made you want to go to Illinois?
Well, actually, the circumstances around that were my brother went to the University of Miami, played for Jimmy Johnson, played D lineman. He got to the University of Miami, got into a little trouble, and ended up where Jimmy Johnson kicked him out a year. Then the next year wanted him back. He played behind Jerome Brown, but in front of Russell Maryland.
Wow.
So I was originally going to Miami. And after he got in trouble, my mom was like, nope, you're staying close. So you can choose any school close. She was like, matter of fact, you're going to Illinois. So I was like, risky business. University of Illinois. That's where I was with it.
That's funny. So your mom kind of helped guide you through that process. At Illinois, what a wonderful career. I think you're still the all-time leader in tackles with 595 and like well over 100 tackles each season. In 1993 and you were the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. In 1993 and 94, you're first team All-American. And that must have been a pretty special time. And, what was going through your mind with, getting these accolades and awards? I know you're excited about, moving on.
Yeah, it was just going out there doing what I love to do. Like I said, my first high school game where I got to play, I made 11 tackles in 1.5. So all I knew how to do from playing at Eastside was run to the ball. That's what they taught us, just run to the ball. Good things happen. And that carried on to college where I just ran to the ball and good things happened. And I was able to be the Illinois' all-time leading tackler, the Big Ten all-time leading tackler, making all these accolades. And obviously it's a team sport, so it wasn't just me. All the guys in front of me that played with me, they all helped me into creating who I am. Because, it's a team sport, so I couldn't have done any of this without those guys. But I was the one that got all the accolades, and I'll take it because I'm a guy that, I've never been a me guy. I always speak up for my guys who, the forgotten guys, I should say.
Sure. So in 94, you won the Jack Lambert Award and the Dick Butkus Award. Now, that must have been really, really awesome for you because Dick Butkus, also being from Linebacker University of Illinois, has had a long reign of outstanding linebackers over the years. What did that mean to you? And have you ever had a chance to meet Dick Butkus?
Yeah, that was actually my first time ever meeting him in Orlando when I won the Dick Butkus Award trophy that night. Because when he was on stage announcing it, he said, "I'm proud to say that this guy who's going to win the award is from Linebacker U, my university." Got it afterwards, had a long conversation with him, told him I wanted to follow his footsteps. I wanted to be a Bear, the whole nine. And it was just really cool just to be able to see a guy that you patterned yourself after. You know what I mean? This guy's like the epitome of linebacker. And to be able to be on the same college field that he was on, and hopefully, eventually I did play at the Bears, but being able to be a guy like that guy, it means the world to me.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're with Dana Howard, former All-American from the University of Illinois and in several Hall of Fames. And when we return, we'll pick up the conversation. We'll be right back.
Shuffling through a stack of resumes and you come to mine. This is it. First impression. My way in. But can my resume show you how I truly stand out? Like that I was studying, going to night school while working 2 jobs just to help my parents pay for groceries. Or being the first one to always step up. No, that's something you just can't put on paper. Look beyond the resume and discover new ways to develop great talent that is dedicated, hardworking, and determined like me.
I got some Oxy after I hurt my neck. First, I took them to feel better. Then, I just kept taking them. I didn't know they'd be this addictive. I didn't know how far I'd go to get more.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.
And welcome back to Inside Sports. I'm Todd Blackstock. We have the great Dana Howard with us on the show for today. We're very excited. It's Black History Month. Dana is an outstanding football player, and he's moved on in his career from the NFL into private business right now. We'll talk about that a little later. We were kind of wrapping up your college career there with meeting Dick Butkus and how cool that was, winning the Jack Lambert Award. And you're now receiving all kinds of accolades. You're in the University of Illinois Hall of Fame. you're in the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. And a couple of years ago, you were inducted into the NCAA Hall of Fame. I mean, what a great honor, Dana, that is being, included with such the greats like Archie Griffin and Peyton Manning and, some of the historic football players of all time. You're a pretty darn good college football player. And, could you describe and walk us through the, how you found out that you were going into the NCAA Hall of Fame?
Well, actually, I really didn't know. I was in the process of moving from a rental home moving from my house, and I had a rental house waiting for my new house to be built. And it was probably about 2 weeks before I moved into my permanent home that we had boxes that we never opened. We just had boxes around the house. So my daughter had the box and she opened it up. I didn't know she had it. There was a football in it. I'm like, what's that? She's like, oh, just a football. So she's throwing it around. She's like, I'm gonna just throw it around. I was like, what does it say? I had never seen it. And she said, it says something about a Hall of Fame, something. I'm like, what? So I said, give it to me. So my wife read the letter. I had the football. I'm like, what is this? And that's how I found out I got inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. So from there, it was one of those things where my wife got a text from everybody before she finished reading the entire letter. She read the 2 paragraphs, not the third. The third paragraph said, please don't tell anybody. But she only read 2 paragraphs, so she didn't read, obviously didn't get the third one. She had already texted about 100 people. So that's how we found out.
I guess the cat was out of the bag. And just think if your daughter wouldn't have been like going through your paperwork and your mail and things, because if you're going through a move, I mean, you've got boxes everywhere and mail. I mean, I still have stuff in boxes, my yearbooks, I can't even find them.
Right.
Could that have impacted anything? Or I guess they probably would have called you at the end and said, hey, did you get the message?
Well, then I found out the very next day we went to the Illinois Mizzou game, and the athletic director was like, man, congratulations. I'm like, I wouldn't know. I was like, oh, thanks. And I kind of still really didn't know. He was like, college football Hall of Fame. I was like, oh, yeah. So everybody knew but me. I didn't really know. So I was kind of dumbfounded.
So when you were coming out of college, you were an All-American a couple years in a row. We spoke about the Butkus and Jack Lambert awards you received. Then it came time for the NFL draft. And, did you what was the process like with the different teams contacting you? I know you ended up getting drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. What was the process like coming from, being an All-American in the NCAA, to being drafted, I guess, in the middle rounds by the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, I mean, it was hectic to say the least. I felt like I should at least been no later than the second rounder, but it was what it was. I got drafted by the Cowboys, went there and did what I always do. One thing leads to another, injuries. And they don't have time for you to get healthy. They just say, we'll move on to the next. So then they released me. I go to the Rams for a couple of years, play there. And from there, I ended up going to the Bears for a couple of years. Did well there, but obviously I'm playing behind a guy named Brian Cox, who's also from East St. Louis. So, it's 2 East St. Louis guys. One's a starter, one's a backup. So not going to start there because Brian has a $10, $12 million contract. I'm not getting in no time soon. So from there, who was it? Ron Rivera was my linebacker coach. He ended up leaving Chicago, going to the Eagles. So he brought me to Philadelphia because he liked me. He was like, man, you're a hell of a player. So I went to the Eagles, played a couple games, and went over to NFL Europe. And it was one of those things was like, you know what? This, the best player doesn't always play. So I knew on pretty much every team that I played on that I could have been a starter because not just because I knew, but because the defensive coordinator brought me in several times and said, hey, you should be my starter at middle linebacker. But because circumstances are what they are and because upper management pays these guys X amount of dollars, they're not going to allow you to start because that makes them look bad. He was like, so I just want to let you know that that's my feeling, that you should be my starting middle linebacker. So that for me gave me, I guess, that verified everything for me that I knew that I was still that type of caliber of ball player. So from there, it was one of those things where it's like, I'm done with all this moving around. So I was like, you know what, got 2 degrees, I can get a job. So I fell back on my alumni connections, and from there, just ended up. I started working as a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch. Using my connections from there. Ended up starting a construction company. So now I own a construction company and a trucking company. So that's what I do now.
So I guess you're living the dream, huh? I guess you had a little bit of a nest egg. You get your signing bonuses and you play a few years in the NFL. You got a little money, to invest. Can you tell us a little bit about your year or two with the St. Louis Rams? I mean, you could probably see the dome practically from your home in East St. Louis.
It was cool, but I think it was more hectic than cool because I just thought
everybody hitting you up.
Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody's your cousin. All of a sudden, everybody's your best friend. Everybody needs a ticket, and you only get 4 tickets free. So everybody else that gets a ticket comes out of my pocket. So when I first came back from Dallas and came to the Rams, I stayed in my mom's basement for the first 5 games. And so I'm like, I'm gonna save some money. So I saved some money for like 5 weeks in a row. Then once, I brought a couple friends over. My mom wanted to know who they were. I was like, I'm too old for this. Let me get my own place. And I can have who I want to have at my place. And from there, it was more like everybody trying to hit you up because remember when you were 5 years old and I bought you some gum in the store? Like, hey, can I borrow $500? I was 5. I didn't have a job. What you were supposed to do is a big cousin or what have you. So that's the hard part about playing at home because everybody expects you to now do something for them. So, but other than that, I enjoyed it because it was home. And playing in front of my family and friends was one of the things that you can't imagine everybody just watching you. It's like being back in high school.
Yeah, and the Rams, they were very popular coming to St. Louis.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a new thing back then. There was an excitement to it. And I mean, the Dome sold out, years and years in a row. And then when the Super Bowl years came, that was very exciting. Were you sad to see the Rams go, or, do you think it was time?
No, I was sad to see him go. I was hoping that Shad Khan could get him because he was going to keep him here. He's a U of I alum, so he was saying that he was going to keep him in St. Louis. But unfortunately, Kroenke had his thoughts, and obviously his whole deal was to build a couple $1 billion stadium where he could have a Super Bowl and 2 teams and all that nonsense. But when you're a multi-billionaire, you can do things like that.
Yeah, I remember that because everybody thought Shad Khan was a shoo-in. It's like, all the NFL owners were down with it and everything, but Kroenke came in at the last minute, and he had that little reserve clause that allowed him to, take the majority of the team, and, we know where that left. But you got to play with the Bears, too. You got to be on the roster for a while. So the Illinois-St. Louis connection, it continues once again. Mm-hmm. And here you are now. You played for the Rams for a while. You went to Illinois from East St. Louis. Now you get on the roster with the Bears. That must have been pretty exciting up in Chicago, one of the biggest cities in North America.
Oh, it was so cool because, one, I stayed with Brian the entire time I was there. So
Brian
I didn't really have any bills. Yeah, Brian, I stayed with him. So I stayed in his basement. Didn't have a car note. I just had, I had to pay for groceries and drinks and food when we went out. So that wasn't much. That was maybe once, twice a week. And not only that, but like you said, pretty predominantly everybody who goes to the University of Illinois are from Chicago. So it was like going back to college almost. So every time I would go out, people would see me, hey, what's going on? Wow, about, man, I saw you on TV playing the Bears. So that was really cool. It was kind of like being at home, but not as many people wanting tickets. But it was really cool just to be in Chicago.
Oh, yeah. You seem like a very popular guy when you're here in St. Louis, and obviously when you're with the Bears in Illinois. And before we let you go, it's Black History Month. You're living the American dream. You grew up in East St. Louis, fought hard. You're an All-American in high school, won a state championship. Then you go on to all these great accolades in the NCAA, and now you own your own business. What advice do you have for kids in the city growing up that they may think they got a tough road ahead, but there's always hope, isn't there?
Oh, no doubt. So I'm gonna say this. This is something that my one of my teachers used to always say it. And it was whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And I'll end it with that.
All right. I do want to ask you one thing kind of off topic. Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores was recently let go by the team. And they didn't make the playoffs, but they had a pretty good run at the end of the year. He's now suing the NFL for discrimination. What do you think about that case? I'm sure don't know everything about it, but it seems like a new precedent in the NFL.
Yeah, from my understanding, the Rooney Rule is kind of a joke. It's just a way for somebody to say, okay, he's a minority, so let's just interview him. Okay, we know we don't want him anyway, but at least we've fulfilled the rule, and now we can go after the guy who we think we want anyway, because as we all know, there are not many minority coaches in the NFL that get jobs. So I guess what did it for him, from my understanding, is his name is Brian, and Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator's name is Brian. And so they were both interviewing for the same job. And Belichick inadvertently texted Brian Flores instead of texting Brian Dabo. And that's how he knew it was a share. He's texting, I'm hearing you're the guy, you're about to get the job. And Brian Flores is like, I haven't even interviewed for it yet. So how do you know I'm getting the job? Then he was like, okay. So he's like, oh, damn, my bad. Wrong Brian. So then he knew it was Brian Dabo who was getting the job. So that's from what I'm hearing. So that's how he feels like it's a sham. I mean, this guy already had the job before I even interviewed.
So it's kind of like they're just going through the motions.
Basically,
going through the motions.
That's my understanding. I'm not privy to the entire conversation. It's just what I heard. Here's how hearsay goes.
When I talked to you yesterday, I said, "Hey, it's Black History Month," and you had a great comeback on that, and we'll wrap it up with that.
Okay. Well, you want me to say it now?
Yeah, go ahead. I said February Black History Month. What did you say?
I said every month is Black History Month. We don't just make Black folks don't just make history in 1 month. We do it every year, every day. So every month is Black History Month, and you can't celebrate Black History Month just in 1 month. It's a yearly thing, because I mean, my tackles didn't just happen in February; they happened in October, November, and December. So that wasn't Black History Month. I was the first person ever at the University of Illinois to win a major award. That didn't happen in February. That happened in December. So, hey, Black History Month is every month, not just February.
All right, Dana. Hey, thanks a lot for joining us on Inside Sports. We appreciate it. Stay warm and safe with this crazy weather, and we'll talk to you soon down the road.
All right, you too. Take it easy. Thanks for having me.
All right. That's Dana Howard right here at Inside Sports. We'd like to thank Dana Howard for joining us, and we'd like to thank you for watching STL TV Experience St. Louis.